Good morning, and I'm so glad that you are worshiping with West Online. If you watched that video just now, that is my most favorite Bible verse ever. You will mount up with wings like eagles. You will run and not grow weary. You will walk and not be faint. In high school, I tried to cross stitch. That was one of my hobbies that I was trying to acquire some skill in. It is actually the only craft project that I have ever began and actually completed. I am notorious for starting things and not finishing them, and still live into that now at 51. But I did that piece on cross stitch, and tells you how old I am, and that it's such a powerful verse. And today, I hope you will find to be a powerful Sunday. And it's going to be a little different. It is graduation Sunday for us. We honor the graduates that have been a part of West Church over the years. And with COVID and all the other things that have happened, we have morphed how we do graduation Sunday, both in person and online. So we have a video of our graduates that we're going to show you. And some are worshiping online, some are going to be at the high school. And so the message today is going to be something that we can all learn from one another. We are going to take some scripture from the book of Proverbs. We don't typically preach from Proverbs. They're short little sayings and quips, but they are from one of the most notorious kings of all time. And he was known to be the wisest of all. His name was Solomon, and he is known for writing the Proverbs. And so we are actually going to talk today about wisdom and knowledge. I have two special guests with me that will be a part of the message a little later. Their names are Layne and Lexi. Perhaps you know them, perhaps you don't. Lexi leads Growth Co., our young adult faith community, and Layne works with her some with Growth Co., and then she also leads our children and youth ministries and has been involved in the bash, the back to school bash, for many years. And so they are going to represent a much younger generation than I am this morning, and we want you to engage with us in the dialogue. In today's world, you can get theological or biblical study and training and self-help and all that stuff by turning on your computer, your phone, your podcast, or your television. And you can get spiritual insight or personal growth insight at just the click of a button. And so there has to be something more that you can get from being a part of a faith community that makes you want to come to this. And so I believe that part of that is the power of being in community. Jesus didn't do ministry alone, and none of his followers did either. So we do ministry together. Part of doing ministry together is gaining wisdom from one another. We can study and we can get a lot of book knowledge, but there's very much a difference between knowledge, knowing stuff, and wisdom. So this morning, the fact that you are worshiping with us, it really is important and it really matters. I'm so glad that you're here. I want you, if you would please, get your device ready if you're worshiping at home, if you log into the chat, if you're worshiping on your TV, pull up West on your phone or your computer, and because we have some dialogue that we want to do with you as well. And so I invite you to get those devices ready. If you're new here, if you're worshiping with us for one of the first few times, we would love to say thank you for that. We'd love to send you a gift. You can text the word welcome to the number that you see on your screen right now. It is 704-343-8955. I'll repeat that one more time, 704-343-8955. 55. Text the word welcome, and then you can choose whether you want to hear from us anymore or not. But we would love to send you a free gift, and thank you for choosing to spend your time with us this morning. I think today will be exciting. It will be authentic. I have asked Layne and Lexi not to rehearse and over-rehearse their answers, and some of the questions that they get, they've had a little foreknowledge of. Some they won't have any idea about them, but I just want them to share with me, and I want you to share with them. So one of the questions that I have for you that I would like for you to type your answer in the chat room: what is something you would tell your younger self? like whatever age you are, go back a decade or two. What is something that you have learned? What is some wisdom that you have now in your life where you are, that if you could do it all over again, if you could rewind time, that you would tell your younger self? Because we have the power to impart our wisdom from the lessons that we've learned, sometimes the hard way, to a younger generation. And that's really sort of what today is all about. But we can also learn from one another and carry it forward, which is ultimately going to be the final point. So type in the chat room as you watch this next video, what is something you would have told or you would tell your younger self? What do you wish you knew then that you know now? Thanks. So with me on my left, I have Layne Smith. She is our student ministry catalyst and does some of our social media and works with pastoral care and a little bit of everything and works with the BASH. And in full transparency, we are slightly related to one another. That is not why she has the job. In fact, I had nothing to do with her getting employment. I would have not even said it was probably the best idea for a daughter and mother to work together. But the leadership and the PAC team felt very differently, and we really needed someone to pour into our students. And so the right position opened at the right time, and she's been on our staff since January and is now moving into a full-time role. So we're really grateful for that. And then on my right, we have Lexi, and Lexi is here, and it has just been such an amazing addition. You've met her multiple times. She's been preaching. She's finishing up local pastor school. Tell us a little about that, Lexi.
So, in July 1st, I will be appointed to West Church as a local pastor, which means I can now officially be the lead for Growth Co., our 20s and 30s ministry. Local Pastor School has been a 6-week intense program. I have learned so much, but I would be lying if I said I'm not ready for it to be done.
So what they do in local pastor school, when Lexi gets licensed as a local pastor in the United Methodist Church, she will have Reverend in front of her name. So she'll be Reverend Lexi. And so what they've done is try to prepare her in 6 weeks for a foundation for ministry, which she already had long before school. But, we like to do things in an educated knowledge kind of way. And we'll talk about knowledge a little later in today's service. Interestingly enough, the fact that Lexi is a local pastor, she'll be able to officiate weddings, and she can help with celebration of life services and just a lot of cool things. So we're really excited and honored that Lexi will be finishing school. She texted me the other day and she said, one of my assignments is I have to make a bulletin. And she's like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, yes. And nor should you ever need to know. I mean, like in today's world, we don't need bulletins. Okay, so, but she made one. I'm like, do you want me to do it for you? I don't think you're supposed to cheat in local pastor school, but I was willing. And she was like, no, I got it. But anyway, so one thing that I want you all to do, because we are going to engage in a little dynamic conversation real time, and because I don't want my laptop sitting here, and plus it's easier for me to read if it's a text. So I want to give you the West phone number for me. It's my work phone number. And in just a few minutes, I may have some additional questions based on your responses. And so I want you to use my phone number and text the answers. My number is 704-661-6074. We'll put that in the chat room. You can see that there. But 704-661-6074. I'll ask a few questions for some additional information later. Now, both of these ladies are a little nervous. I've asked them not to be. And Layne called me last night working on her answers. I'm like, I would like for this to be authentic, not rehearsed. One of the things West people appreciate is authenticity and vulnerability and transparency. So if I think that their answers are rehearsed, I will go off script and make this be something different. So I did ask them to think about, because today is graduation Sunday, and Layne, how many years have you been graduated from high school?
6, I think. I graduated in 2016.
Lexi?
8. I graduated in 2014.
Okay. For me, it's been 10. I'm a 10-year graduate. So actually, I don't know, maybe 30. Ooh, it's been a long time. So there's some time that has passed.
Yeah.
In the years that you have been since you graduated high school, what do you think is one of the lessons that you've learned over the past 6 to 8 years that you wish you had known going into beginning adulting? Like, adulting is this new phrase now, and like I'm starting to adult, or I'm adulting now, and what that means is you're moving from being dependent on someone else to gaining your independence. And that's a process. Like, you don't just snap your fingers and it's all done. Like, I just purchased my first car all by myself, without like a spouse or another person's, my father's name on it. And so I'm still adulting at 51. So it's a process. What's one thing that if you could go back and tell a graduate, what would you tell them?
So for me, and you have to take this with a grain of salt, mine would be to not take things so seriously. All through high school and college, I was all work, not all the time. I mean, I still had fun and everything, but I took school way too seriously. I was so stressed out about this paper's due next week. I have this test to study for. I have A, B, C, D. And I just took things way too seriously, where it got me over-stressed out. It affected my mental health to where I wasn't, taking care of myself. And I took things way too seriously all the time. I never calmed down. I never relaxed. That's the biggest thing in my life now, is I have to take a deep breath, take a step back, and just calm down. Not everything is as serious as it seems. Like, yes, things are important, but just calm down a little bit. Things are going to happen. School's going to be there tomorrow. You're going to be okay. Just take a deep breath and just not take things so seriously. For me, at least. Yeah. What about you, Lexi?
Yeah, so part of the reason why Layne and I are really, really good friends is we're like the opposite, so we just complement each other really well.
Yeah.
Mine would probably be the exact opposite experience of Layne's. So I didn't take things seriously enough. I have a tendency to not think that milestones in my life are milestones. I don't give them the credit that they need. Since graduating high school, I've graduated college. I've started a new career here at West. I've gotten married, and all of those things I just didn't take seriously enough. Those are huge, huge accomplishments, and I just kind of breezed through life like nothing mattered. And so I would say there should be a good balance of taking things seriously, but not too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to weave in the comments that you gave earlier when we asked about lessons that you wish you could tell your younger self. And since I my role here is to tie this all back to faith and spirituality and God and following Christ. I'm going to weave that in as well. So one of the lessons that someone in the chat room said is that they wish that they would tell themselves, God's got this, that there's a power and a force at work in this world that is bigger than we are. And that even though horrific things happen, that somehow, even, and you've heard me say this before, even in the worst of things, they're not the last things. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting that was a lesson that someone wished they could tell their younger self. Look, you're going to go through really, really horrific and difficult circumstances, but there is a power, there's God, and God holds all things together. And there's a difference between God making bad things happening or making bad things happen and God holding all things together. But we are taught in Scripture over and over again, and we can see it through the people of Israel and through the way Jesus lived his life, that even in the midst of absolute horror, love, God is always present. And the Apostle Paul tells us that God works all things for good for those that love God and dedicate themselves to God. So just that would be a lesson that I think applies to y'all in the next chapter, because adulting doesn't get easier. It just gets more difficult. Yeah. I used to think that parenting small children was way harder than, no offense, but parenting older children, and that is not the case. Like when you hurt, I hurt, and your hurts are much bigger than getting shocked by the electrical outlet now. So, adulting does not get easier, but we don't have to do it alone. And that's the power of community. Yeah. All right. The next thing is, what is your biggest failure? Lexi, I'll call on you first.
Oh, man. Oh, no. I thought we weren't doing this.
Yeah, I thought this one was getting nixed.
Or what's one thing you failed at?
I get time to think.
Okay, the first thing that came to my mind was adulting, actually, just in general. Yeah. So my parents growing up, I had a chore list. All the typical chores, dishwashing, mowing the lawn, folding laundry, and I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I hated it. And now, in college and after graduating college, I have become the stickler of chores. So I would say my biggest failure thus far has been not appreciating my parenting that I received growing up, because obviously I would like to think I'm a pretty okay human. Like it worked well.
I think you are.
Yeah. It turned out okay, and I think I just really undervalued and underappreciated what my parents were trying to do for me growing up, because now I show those same tendencies to Tony. So clearly they work in some way, or I find value in them.
Yeah. That's really funny, because mine is kind of the same way. Recently, I've become a bonus mom to a 2.5-year-old, and I noticed that my parenting styles reflect my parents very greatly. Ways that I didn't like growing up, but I appreciate now. But one thing that I probably regret not doing growing up, and this is going to sound cliche, but not telling enough people thank you. Growing up, my parents always said that there was a village. It took a village to raise my brother and I. And I'm beyond grateful for that village. I still am close with some of them to this day. And some I don't speak to anymore, and some are no longer here. But I think my biggest regret is not telling them thank you enough. That the impact that they made on me, I'm 24 years old now, but I think about them every day. And just I wish I appreciated them more in the moment. Because I would not be where I am and who I am without them today. Even if in the moment I wanted to just roll my eyes at you and walk away, which I might have with many of the people that might even be listening online right now.
Usually publicly, like at church.
Yeah,
at Williamson's Chapel.
I was not so nice. So I just wish I said thank you more. And growing up, you do realize after the fact how important and how impactful those people were on you. Like you were saying, your parents' parenting styles and the village that raised my brother and I really did impact us in such a positive light. So I just wish I said thank you a little bit more.
So I ask you now, if you'd grab your smartphone or your computer, you can text me through iMessage. What is something that you have failed at in your life that ended up teaching you a lesson? One of the things I think graduates face is that there's this pressure to get it right. And there's this pressure to know what you want to do. And, I kept telling Layne, I'm like, I don't care what you major in. Just major in something. What was it you would tell people that you were majoring in? Yes, we're gonna tell that to people. Because well, it's West. And so there's a level of inappropriateness always. But back when Layne was graduating and moving into college, she's like, I don't know what I want to do. And so instead of just saying that, she came up with a sarcastic, like her mother, answer. And so please tell them what you would tell people.
Just know that I am a children's and youth minister. I don't talk like this to children or youth. I'm appropriate. But I would tell people that I was majoring in adult films.
Oh, I forgot that. I thought it was pole dancing.
No, it's adult films.
Adult films. All right. Well, maybe that. No.
And it stopped the conversation right there. Nobody ever asked me any more questions.
And rightfully so.
I promise I did. I majored in sociology. I promise.
And you've been in no adult films,
no.
Right? Okay, very good. I, as your mother, am very happy to hear about that.
Oh yeah, getting put on the spot today.
But there is. We're laughing about it, but as your mom, I remember, and also it's been a rare opportunity to be able to mentor Lexi in her first full-time, full-in career, and it's been the biggest privilege for me. So I hope you know that. Yes. On Mother's Day, when you sent me a text that I'm your spiritual mom, that meant the world to me. But there's this inordinate amount of pressure to get it right. Yeah. And one of the things that I've tried to always teach us at West is that failing is getting it right. Yep. We are going to fail, and we fail fast, and we fail forward. We always want to fall forward so we at least gain some ground in our failures, but it is okay to fail. And so, Layne's sarcastic answer came from just this inner place of disturbance. And I remember when Lexi first began, she's this amazing go-getter, and when she walks in a room, you immediately want to talk to her. She has a charisma and a drive, and after she started, a couple of weeks later, I'm like, something's not right. Where's the drive? And I'll never forget, talking to her on the phone one day. I'm like, do you want this job? Do you like it? What's wrong? And you were like, I'm just so afraid I'm going to fail. And I'm like, you're going to fail. I fail at least daily, if not multiple. And I'm not kidding. I fail daily. But we fail fast, we fail forward, and we're a place of grace. And so we always try to give that grace. And I think that's one thing I would want the graduates to know, is that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not know what you want to do, and how many times our career paths change, and it's okay to just try to find your way. But there's a way to find your way, and that's always grounded in love. And so that is really important. So I'd love to know from you all, our worshiping community, what is a lesson that you have learned from one of your failures. And if you're worshiping on demand, I would love for you to email me that answer, or you can text 704-661-6074. So what is something, ladies, that you do not regret?
Okay, I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I think what I don't regret is, I know I said I do regret taking things too seriously, but at the same time, one thing I don't regret is having fun. Taking a break not procrastinating your work, but putting that paper to the side for a little bit and just having fun, relaxing, going out with friends. I mean, to be fair, I probably don't talk to, I talk to maybe 2 people from college now, but in the moment and those people that I did hang out with and I did make connections with, I just remember them with such joy and happiness, and I just don't regret having fun because you are only young once, and I firmly believe that because you grow up so fast without knowing that you're growing up. It seems like 2 days ago I might have graduated college or something, but it was a while ago, and I just loved going out on the parkway or going and getting ice cream with my friends, just something small that I absolutely don't regret because it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool.
I would say, actually, I should start with a story. So last week, Layne and I had a really important Growth Co meeting, and it's with very professional people. They're higher up than we are, and they just kind of wanted to check in and see what we were up to at Growth Co, see if there was anything they could help with. And I am extremely insecure around really professional people. I don't really understand why. I'm sure I can use my past with therapy to try to pinpoint some sort of reasoning or answer. But I get like sick to my stomach when I have really important meetings to go to, just because my personality has never been extremely professional. It's always very silly, goofy. I try to be fun and laugh. So I do get extremely insecure around professional people. But what I do not regret is being the silly, goofy, funny version of myself. That is who I am through and through. And although I become insecure around professional people, I would not wish that I was a different way.
Yeah.
So I don't regret being me, I guess.
Good. You know, it's so interesting, and that's why I love conversations like this. And this is so rich and so authentic. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the preaching part because I love that you all are texting in, because I think these are the lessons that we can learn from each other. And I think these lessons are not just applicable to graduates. One of my points at the end was going to be, whatever you would tell your younger self is what you need to tell yourself now, and then live it moving forward. Because if we're still here, we still have opportunity. I don't care if you're 80 or 90 or 100 or 50 or 10. You know, every moment, not every day, but every moment is an opportunity. And the next message series that we're going to dive into is going to be beginning next week, the power of the moment and the power of defining moments. And we always think about defining moments being the peaks and the pitfalls, but actually, what if all of our moments have potential to be defining moments? We can make them be defining moments, and we're going to talk about how to do that and look at all the different things that have power in our lives. So I'm really excited about what's coming up. But what I hear you both saying is that at one part of your journey, you were not true to who you were. And it's so interesting that the many, many texts that are coming in is the failure at not living in the moment, failure at not being who I authentically was, a failure at worrying what other people thought of me, failure of not pursuing my dream. And finally, I had the courage to be true to me. And so I just, and you both, I want you to claim that moving forward, and I want us to claim that too. It's scary and unpredictable, but if we believe in a force, a power, God, that is bigger than we are, then we know that that goodness prevails, that love wins, and that no matter how hard it may seem, no matter how lonely it may seem, because making friends is a hard thing. Talk about that a little, Lexi. Because that's so hard for people moving in transitions, whether you're an adult moving into a transition and you've moved, or you've taken your first job, or you're going to college, or you're going into the workforce. You know, friends are so important, and it's so hard. I've shared in previous messages that when I went to college, I went through all these different stages. Like one time I wore the little polo shirts that you turn up and and like, you know, the
Popped
little,
collar.
Yeah.
whatever
Ralph
alligator
Lauren
on the side or whoever was,
Yeah.
you know, the little horse. And that so was not me. And then my next stage was I lived in East Hall at Appalachian and gunny sack, hacky sack.
Yeah.
You know, I would go around kicking a hacky sack, not successfully, because I was going to be our word was a granola, and so I tried to fit into that group for that period of time, and I tried so many different groups, and then I realized that I don't necessarily fit in a group. I'm a little weird, and that's okay, and it's okay to be different, and it's okay to be who you are. And we are all uniquely created in God's image, which is love. And we're created different for a reason. And so it's okay to be different. So making authentic friends is a huge challenge. Talk about that.
So I'm a recovering people pleaser. So that actually, it really has been a struggle in college, definitely in high school. I graduated from Statesville High School, and high school was really hard for me. I am mixed. I'm biracial. I'm half black, half white, and Statesville kind of is mixed, kind of down the middle. Like there's a large group of Hispanic and black culture, and then there's there's a lot of white students as well. Well, in high school, I grew up in Mooresville, and then I went to high school at Statesville High School for the early college, and I got bullied really, really badly for being in the early college program. And on top of that, it was almost like I was forced to choose a side, which culture I wanted to be a part of. So depending on the day, depending on who I was around, I would show different parts of myself. And it was really, really tough. So in college, I went to App, just like all three of us went to App, actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I kind of did the same thing. I turned into someone who I wouldn't say that I authentically was, but it worked for the time being. And then when I graduated, that didn't really change. All of that to say, though, my friend group now is not who I would have expected my friend group to be. My friend group is actually a group of people who I differ from in a lot of different ways and perspectives, but they help me grow and they help me be who I actually am because they're supportive and encouraging of it, although we differ in maybe political views or interests or what beers we like to drink. I mean, anything. So your friend group doesn't have to be a lot of people who are like you. You can grow in a lot of different environments with different people.
So mine kind of starts out a little differently. I grew up with an older brother who's 2 years older than me, and he is very smart. He was salutatorian. He didn't really have to study and stuff, and I'm the type of person that studied for hours and got a 68 and said, hey, that was good. So he was just so smart, and he was a people pleaser. He was just walked into a room, he was just super nice, and everybody loved him, and I was the opposite. I didn't really, at that point in time, now I am. I like to go talk a lot. But in high school, I was always Andrew's sister. I was never Layne. I was never myself. I did cross country like him. The only thing that was different is I played soccer and he didn't. But I always compared myself to him because I was identified as his sister, not as myself. So he went to App for the first 2 years, and then he ended up transferring. So I was like, oh, finally, I have a college that's myself. Like, I have a place that's just me. And I'm not blaming anything because, I mean, I did do this to myself. I did compare myself to my brother a lot. So that's some advice I give anybody, no matter how old you are. Just don't compare yourself to people so much. Like, you are authentically you for a reason, and I'm very grateful I'm not my brother. I'm grateful that I'm myself. But I think working with friends and trying to make friends, I was like, how can I make friends if I'm somebody else? You know, like I'm Andrew's sister, I'm not Layne. So when I went to App, I finally got to discover, oh, this is what I like to do. I like to do this. I like to do that. I have interest in different things, and I got involved in different clubs. And like I said, I only talked to about 2 people from college, but like Lexi said, the friends I have now, if you would have told me a year ago that I would be friends with them, I would laugh in your face. Like the partner I have, if you said I would be dating him, I would have laughed in your face. It just, you never expect the friends that you do have, because it's just that sort of unique kind of feeling that you get when you meet someone. When I met my best friend in college, we were both like, "You look really mean," and I was like, "Well, you look really mean," and now we're best friends. So it's like you don't ever expect those people to be your friends, but you just have to be open to it, and like, don't force it. You know, if you're meant to be friends, it will happen authentically. Lexi and I met randomly throughout her working with West, and I was at another job, and we didn't ever like actively try to hang out and stuff, but it just kind of grew into a natural friendship. And like, we don't hang out every day, we don't talk every day, but like when we do, it's just like kind of like nothing changed. So I think that's what I think about friendship, is it kind of comes naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't change who you are.
Yep.
Several of the stories that we've gotten from folks are about how they wanted to fit into, like, one of someone's biggest regret is that they wanted this relationship to work. And so they tried really hard to make it work and changed who they were authentically. And then it ended up being a very unhealthy relationship. And so their lesson that they learned from that is to be authentically true to who they are and set boundaries. And boundaries are okay.
Yes.
And anytime you don't set boundaries, later on this year, we're going to do a whole message series around boundaries. But if you haven't had boundaries and then all of a sudden you start setting them, don't expect that to go well. And that's when you go to therapy, because somebody will help you to put those boundaries in place. But it's so important that you're authentic. I read an article this morning in my devotional time before worship, and it was, if you're preaching this morning, here are the top 5 things you need to know that people don't want. I'm like, well, today's a good day to read that. And so the number one thing was, and this is this world famous preacher that has millions of people following his blog, don't be unauthentic. Be authentic. People just want you to be you. And a short story, you know that I was involved in the psychedelic research with Johns Hopkins, and they have a retreat coming up at the end of June, and I've been on the fence about going, and it's not a great time business-wise or organizational-wise for me to be gone. It's not a great time personally for me to be gone, and but I wanted to go, so I've been praying about it a lot, and honestly, what did me in was the lookbook. Like, they created a lookbook. And you had to submit your picture and your bio, and keep in mind I was already leaning towards not going, just for lots of very, very legitimate reasons. Yeah. But I don't have like this photo repertoire of myself, with headshots. And so I'm like, Dawn, do you have any pictures of me? Layne, do y'all have any pictures of me? And so I finally settled on one from Halloween with Axel. And I was Catwoman and he was Batdog. And that was my headshot. And I thought, okay, it's not inappropriate, and then my little bio. And it's a 4-day all-intensive retreat that's like all vegan, and I do appreciate like cheese and stuff. So I was like, that was already a no. And then I looked, and I'm like, I'm so different. And for like several hours, I felt really bad about who I was. And I'm like, I just feel like I suck. I mean, I'm so not like all these other pretty famous people. And then I'm like, no. You don't get to do that. And so like years ago, I would have never gotten to this place. So there's hope, with lots of therapy. I'm like, I'm gifted, I'm called, and there is a group of people that respect me enough to listen to what I have to say on a weekly basis, to give their money to support our cause. And I don't have to be like all these other people. I just get to be me. And I'm okay. Like, I love who God has created me to be. And dadgum pre-psychedelics, that probably would have never happened. But, I mean, that's that's who we are created to be. So I want y'all to always remember, and you always remember, to be authentically you. I want to show you the definition, if we can. Josh is earning his salary times 2,000 today because this is not a scripted Sunday. But I want to show you the definition between knowledge and wisdom, because this was the takeaway for the message for every one of us. We can learn everything we want to learn from a book. Knowledge is facts and information and skills acquired through learning or education. You can be the smartest person in the room, but lack wisdom. And there is nothing to quantify. There's no test, no degree. There's nothing that quantifies wisdom. And wisdom is the quality of having experience and knowledge and good judgment. So I'm going to share a scripture verse with you in just a second. But there's this saying that you can say, you can know what to say at the right time in the right place and know all the right stuff to say. You can know all the right stuff to say, but wisdom is knowing the right time and the right place. And you gain that wisdom from being fully present in life. And that was another message that someone sent in, that be present in the moment. You know, be fully present and just take in everything you can where you are. You don't need to regret and you don't need to worry. Just be fully present. Lexi came up with the message series title for the next series, and it's say what you baggage and
baggage is about where you've been, and luggage is about where you're going.
And I just thought that was brilliant. I'm like, that's the next title for what we're going to talk about, living in the present moment and defining our moments and claiming our power in God's power. And so I want to share with you the proverb that is about wisdom. This is our scripture for today. It's Proverbs 3:13 through 18. You're blessed when you meet Lady Wisdom and when you make friends with Madam Insight. She's worth far more than money in the bank. Her friendship is better than a big salary, and her value exceeds all the trappings of wealth. Nothing you could wish for holds a candle to her. With one hand, she gives long life, and with the other, she confers recognition. Her manner is beautiful, and her life is wonderfully complete. She's the very tree of life to those who embrace her. Hold her tight and be blessed. Wisdom is something that we can have in following God. And following God at West, we sum it up in 3 ways. You love God, and we believe God is love, so you love love. And then we are called to love ourselves. It feels weird to say, I love who I am, but that's what God wants from us and for us. And if we don't learn to love ourselves, it's sort of like slapping God in the face. I mean, because we are uniquely created by God. And then love one another. And loving one another does not mean being a doormat. It means being authentically true to who you are, setting boundaries, but being kind in all that you do. And so that is my wish for us, for our graduates. You know, Layne laughs at me when I say it, but you do you. I'm too old to say that statement. I know that, but it's so true. You do you. You be you. And it all will work out. Like, we have people that are way older than any of us saying that. One of the ladies that said, look, it all works out in the end. I wish I could have told myself that. Like, she's lived through some stuff, and I know her and respect her, and she's one of my mentors. And so just know that God does hold all things together, even in the most horrific of circumstances. The worst things are never the last things, and love always wins. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, thank you for the power of community and the lessons that we can learn from one another. Thank you for these folks at West. And one of the messages that someone sent in is to tell our graduates and tell Lexi and Layne that they have a village of people supporting them. And how cool is it that just over digital airwaves, we can have the power of community. And they are privileged to have these folks, and these folks are privileged to have one another. And we're just so grateful for the opportunity to love one another in the name of love. Thank you for giving us that pathway. Thank you for revealing it to us through the person of Jesus. And we offer ourselves to you in Christ's holy name. Amen. Congrats to our graduates. Thank you for this. This is like so awesome. I think this is probably one of the best Sundays ever. And I wish we could do it this way every Sunday. But I'm so glad that you were here. Have a great week.